Salutations, respected viewers. This is George from Ireland, and I'm carrying on my series about Germany, 1918 to 45, and I'm looking at German foreign policy in 1939. It had been a Nazi goal since the foundation of the party to take back territory from Poland, even though these were mostly Polish majority areas, and indeed to expand further into Eastern Europe by conquering and subjugating other countries and literally enslaving their populations, as well as simply plundering the resources. Anyway, by the middle of 1939, the Third Reich had achieved some of its goals with regard to what's now the Czech Republic and Austria. In Austria, most people wanted to be part of Germany. In the Czech Republic, not many did. The next target was Poland. But the Third Reich was worried that the Soviet Union might intervene. The Soviet Union was an enormous country, had recovered from the First World War and the Civil War, and was building up its military, was industrializing very fast. So the Germans were worried that if they attacked Poland, the Soviet Union might fear that they were about to be attacked and therefore declare war on Germany. And there was a possibility that if the Third Reich attacked Poland, France would declare war on Germany, and there was some possibility that the United Kingdom would as well. Now, Hitler had come to believe that the French and British were weak-willed and they would not honour their word. They would break the Polish guarantee, as indeed France had broken its guarantee to Czechoslovakia. Anyway, Nazism was virulently anti-communist, and Hitler made no secret of this. Nazis used to march around Germany with signs saying death to Marxism. Marxism is synonymous with communism because Karl Marx wrote the Communist Manifesto, the Bible of communism, if you will. Anyhow, the foreign minister at the time, Joachim Ribbentrop, he was more of a pragmatist. He looked back to shifting alliances of power blocks in the 18th and 19th century, and didn't care so much for ideology. But he bragged that Germany was about to pull off the biggest diplomatic defeat of England since the 18th century, and he did use the word England rather than the United Kingdom. So the French and British had foreseen that the Soviet Union could be a very powerful ally against the Third Reich. So some British generals had sailed to northern Russia, Archangel, to hold consultations with some Soviet generals to see whether some agreement could be reached with the Soviet Union. The French had a military pact with the Soviet Union. However, many French right-wingers felt this was anathema. A civil war had been going on in Spain, mainly communists on one side and anti-communists on the other. And people in France feared that might even happen in their country, where the country was quite polarized. Could France really be trusted? Started to feel he was backing the wrong horse with regard to France and even the United Kingdom. He thought that perhaps Hitler's assessment of these countries was accurate, that they were decadent, effete, and they had lost their courage. The other thing is, the Russian government would say this today, the Soviets knew that Germany was going to attack them, and the only thing to do was to buy time to enable the Soviet Union to build up its armed forces even more. Anyhow, von Ribbentrop, well, he wasn't really von, that's the aristocratic prefix von. Ribbentrop flew to Moscow in August 1939, and on the 23rd of that month, he signed the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, as we call it, or the Nazi-Soviet Non-Aggression Pact, was to last for 10 years. It was a mind-blowing development. For 20 years, the Nazis had harped on about how they utterly detested communism, and they vowed to rid the world of communism. Likewise, communists said that Nazism was an utterly pernicious ideology and must be annihilated. But now they appear to have kissed and made up, with secret annexes to it. So a lot of other territory in Eastern Europe had formerly belonged to the Russian Empire: Moldova, Eastern Poland, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, and Finland. And there were communist parties in these countries, which were often persecuted by governments there. So communists from all nations had gone to Moscow, joined Comintern, that's Communist International, seeking to disseminate the communist ideology throughout the world, to bring about communist revolutions in other countries, because they said that would emancipate the proletariat, who were really little better than wage slaves to communist thinking. Hitler also said that the German minority in Poland was treated with monstrous cruelty, which is rather a big exaggeration. There were some German secret agents who crossed into Poland and set off a few bombs in late August 1939 to provide a pretext for invasion. Danzig was part of Poland. It was effectively run by Poland. The Polish army was there. Technically, it was League of Nations territory. Now, this city, Danzig, was Gdansk in Polish, was 90% ethnically German, and most of them voted for the Nazi party there and wanted to join Germany, but this wasn't being allowed. A German warship went on a courtesy visit to Danzig, was anchored in the harbour there for the townsfolk to visit it, and so forth. The German plan for war was finely tuned. Soldiers were massed on the border. In August 1939, there were desperate plans to avert war. The British thinking, could they back out on the Polish guarantee? Could the course of the river Vistula be diverted? And somehow this would satisfy both sides. Prisoners were taken from a concentration camp. And on the 1st of September 1939, they're brought to a radio station in Germany, very close to the Polish frontier. They were dressed in Polish army uniforms and shot dead. 5 a.m. that morning, the German artillery opened up on Poland. That German warship, the Schleswig-Holstein in Gdansk, started to bombard the Polish garrison there. And German tanks and then infantry crossed the border. Air raids began, trying to destroy the Polish Air Force on the ground. So the Third Reich announced that Poland had launched this completely unprovoked attack on Germany. Again, that was bogus, since Germany actually set off bombs in railway stations in places like Tarnów in the days leading up to the war. Now, the world's press was told, yes, look, the Polish army attacked this radio station at Gleisowitz, just inside Germany, which was false. But people didn't know it was false. Some of the German public fell for that. If Poland was really going to attack Germany, why would they only send about 10 soldiers across the border to attack a radio station? But there we are. The whole story about this bogus case for war only came out after the war. So I won't go through the military side of it, but anyway, Poland was defeated within 3 weeks. That was that. So Chamberlain was the British Prime Minister, and the British ambassador in Berlin, he was given a message of what to do. He spoke to the German government, said, you must tell us by 11 a.m. you will immediately withdraw from Poland, otherwise we will declare war on you. Anyway, Chamberlain, the British Prime Minister, went on the radio to broadcast that afternoon, saying, I have to tell you now that no such undertaking has been received, and consequently a state of war exists between this country and Germany. Chamberlain went on to say, you all know what a bitter blow it is to me, who strived so hard to maintain the peace, but I can think of nothing I could have done differently to preserve peace. Anyway, Chamberlain was a toothless, grandfatherly, feeble figure, uninspiring. There's no doubting his sincerity or his tenacity in striving peace or in considering the Third Reich to be an existential threat to the United Kingdom. He may have been mistaken in some of his judgments, but there we are. He was later pushed out as Prime Minister on the 10th of May, 1940, but I won't get ahead of myself. By this stage, the British Empire was not a unit in international law. Some of the colonies were, well, most of them were. The dominions were not, that's to say Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and indeed Newfoundland. Newfoundland was not part of Canada until 1949. So these countries could all run an independent foreign policy, all had their own representation at the League of Nations, and they could choose to declare war or indeed remain neutral. And all of them in the coming days did declare war. In South Africa, it was highly contentious. Jan Smuts became Prime Minister again. Some of the Afrikaner nationalists wouldn't go along with it. The Irish Free State, which is where I'm from, De Valera, the Taoiseach, he chose to remain neutral for various reasons. One of the primary advantages of leaving the United Kingdom is we were not automatically going to be involved in these British wars. Moreover, it seemed unlikely the Allies would win at that stage. And there was no doubt it was quite popular. So in the south of Ireland, some people were so Anglophobic they genuinely preferred Nazism. There were some people in the south of Ireland who wanted the Allies to win, though. I won't go into that. Hitler was aghast. Ribbentrop had assured him that the British would not declare war. And Hitler said, "So what's going to happen now?" And Ribbentrop had to fess up that it was probable the French would declare war as well, which they did a few hours later. Sorry, incidentally, I should tell you, it was the 3rd of September that the British declared war, and the French, not the 1st. So they did that for a couple of days, and the Dominions waited a few days as well, which enabled them as neutrals to buy some supplies, which as belligerents they would not be able to purchase, particularly from the United States, owing to the Neutrality Act.